If your children begin to show disrespect or avoid communication, it is not worth responding with anger or strict methods. It is better to apply wise approaches that preserve family harmony and connection. According to ancient Eastern teachings, harmony is achieved through acceptance and patience. In the modern world, parents often feel forgotten, especially when children grow up and start their own families. When it seems that all strength and love have already been given to upbringing, Tibetan sages teach that true strength lies in the ability to let go and allow children to follow their own path. The connection with children remains at a deep level, beyond time and distance. This is an important reminder for parents to maintain love and patience no matter what. Here is a story. Nodesmith was affectionate and grateful since childhood, but after starting his own family, he began to visit his mother, Galina Petrovna, less often. Galina Petrovna often stayed alone, remembering her son's promises to take care of her in old age. Instead of resentment, she decided to write kind letters and send homemade pies. After several months, Dmitri unexpectedly visited his mother and confessed feeling guilty for his rare visits, promising to spend more time with her. This story shows that love and patience can be much more effective than reproaches. Wisdom and kindness are more important in preserving family relationships. It is important to understand that children, once grown up, do not always meet your expectations. Instead of arguments and conflicts, try to remain calm and show kindness. In psychologist Mikhail Lobkovsky's book, it is said that parents often feel lonely when children distance themselves or behave dismissively. The author notes that this does not always mean that children do not appreciate or respect their parents. Sometimes they are simply busy with their own concerns. The task of parents is to maintain patience and find joy in small meetings and moments of communication with their children. Galina Petrovna is an example of how patience and understanding can change relationships with children, showing that emotions are temporary. Sometimes the best way to express love is to give children space for their own growth and development. It is not always wise to react immediately to hurt or disappointment, as emotions can lead to rash actions. Let's consider the story of Anna Sergeyevna, a retiree and former teacher who noticed her son Ilya growing distant after she retired. Anna Sergeyevna was distressed by his distance and initially reminded him of herself with frequent calls and messages. But the more persistent she was, the less often her son responded, which only worsened her anxiety. One day she realized that persistence was not helping and decided to change her approach by showing more patience and understanding. She read about the importance of not imposing on children and letting them take the initiative. Then she decided to stop trying to contact her son and focus on the retirees club. She even enrolled in painting courses. After a few months, her son called himself, surprised that she no longer tried to meet him. The son admitted that work was very demanding and he couldn't find time to communicate. But learning that his mother was busy with other things, he felt relieved. She realized that to get closer to children, you need to let them feel their importance but not control them. This is the key to understanding and communication. It is important to remember that children's aggression or detachment is often related to their internal experiences, not to you. This helps maintain patience. The story of Viktor Mikhailovich is a vivid example. He raised his son Pavel strictly and disciplinarily, which led to alienation in the future. Pavel, having become an adult, began to avoid his father, and every conversation ended in a quarrel, which worsened the gap between them. Viktor Mikhailovich decided to consult a family psychologist to understand the reasons for his son's detachment and find a different approach. The psychologist advised listening to the son without questions that cause irritation to establish a more trusting contact. When Pavel came to visit next time, Viktor Mikhailovich restrained himself and did not ask provocative questions, just prepared dinner. During dinner, Pavel asked how his son's work was going. Pavel began to calmly talk about his difficulties for the first time in a long time. This calm conversation brought them closer than any advice or reproaches could. Family relationships can be complicated and require patience. This is especially true for adult children. Even being independent, they need support and understanding from their parents. But children cannot always or do not want to show this. Perhaps they are facing personal problems, stress, or guilt. The parent's task is to remain a source of strength and support for their children, not a cause of new worries. It is important to remember that love is expressed not only in care and advice, but also in the ability to let go and trust. There is also an example that shows how patience can strengthen relationships with children. The story of Tatiana Pavlovna and her daughter. Tatiana Pavlovna once quarreled with her daughter. She accused her of interfering in personal matters and trying to give orders. Tatiana Pavlovna felt hurt but decided to take a break from communication to calm down and reflect on her actions. Instead of anger or arguments, she wrote a letter to her daughter, expressing her feelings and asking for forgiveness. She is ready to accept her daughter's decision and give her more freedom. In response to the letter, the daughter called and thanked her for understanding. Since then, their relationship has become more harmonious. These stories show softness and patience in the family, a striving for harmony through acceptance of change. Each of us strives for harmony in the family, but for this it is important to be able to accept changes and remain open, even when it is difficult and requires effort. In relationships with adult children, it's important to see the world through their eyes and understand that their actions are conditioned by circumstances you may not know about. Misunderstanding creates barriers that seem insurmountable. However, with attention and patience, they can be overcome, strengthening connection and trust. Sergei Nikolaevich, a former engineer, was proud of his daughter Elena, a successful lawyer. She started working at a large company and immersed herself in her career. He also suggested meeting at a time convenient for her to calmly talk and sort out the situation. After a few weeks, Elena agreed to meet, and they discussed her work and the difficulties she faces every day. Nikolaevich learned that his daughter works 12 hours a day, often experiencing stress and fatigue. Her absence was due to being busy, not intentional ignoring of her loved ones and their feelings. This story shows that before drawing conclusions, it is worth finding out what is happening in your children's lives. Being open to dialogue and listening is what helps to build relationships and restore lost closeness. Instead of focusing on the negative, it is important to concentrate on positive moments and memories. This is what Lydia Petrovna did when her son, who had worked abroad for many years, could not come to her anniversary. She was eagerly awaiting that moment, preparing dinner, and even bought a new dress especially for the celebration. At the last moment, her son called and said he could not come due to important matters. Lydia Petrovna was upset but decided not to jump to conclusions or be offended by her son. Instead of resentment, she sent a warm message expressing understanding and support to her son. Photos from the celebration taken by her friends were sent to her son. She added warm words about her love and understanding to maintain closeness with him. A few days later, her son sent a ticket to Spain and invited her to spend a whole month with him to celebrate her anniversary together and strengthen their relationship. Lydia Petrovna realized that by letting go of negativity and maintaining communication, she preserves a close relationship with her son despite the distance and difficulties. Lydia Petrovna's example shows that flexibility and understanding are more important than control and rigidity when it comes to children and parenting. Every parent dreams of being closer to their children, but it is important to show wisdom and patience, waiting until the children are ready to communicate. One common situation is that children behave aggressively or with neglect during adolescence, which causes tension in relationships. Natalia Vladimirovna, grandmother of 2 teenagers, initially tried to set strict rules, but this only increased conflict and misunderstanding. One day, Natalia Vladimirovna decided to change her approach. Instead of control and punishment, she began to pay attention to her grandchildren's interests. She began to take an interest in what her grandson loves and is passionate about, which helped him open up and grow closer to her. The grandson stopped behaving aggressively, and Natalia Vladimirovna realized that to get closer to the child, it is necessary to show attention and support. Showing genuine interest in a child's life and hobbies is very important. Children always sense when they are treated with understanding and care. When parents show patience, they give children the opportunity to process their emotions and return to communication with renewed strength and desire. Irina Semyonovna, a retiree and doctor, shared how her son faced financial difficulties and stopped keeping in touch. A friend advised Irina not to pressure her son, but to give him time. She followed this advice, sending only occasional supportive messages. After 6 months, the son reached out himself and admitted that he felt embarrassed to ask for help because of his difficulties. He did not want to trouble his mother, but now that the situation has improved, they have returned to warm communication and close relationships. Irina realized that to maintain relationships, it is necessary to allow children to cope with difficulties independently while staying nearby and offering support. These examples show that patience, acceptance, and willingness to give time are important for strong relationships with children. Building trustful relationships takes time. If you show genuine care and openness, children will sooner or later feel it. It is important to understand that when it comes to difficulties in relationships with adult children, you need to ask yourself, were there moments when you felt forgotten or like nobody? Share your experience in the comments. Perhaps your stories will help others find a solution or feel that they are not alone in their struggles. Let's consider the case of Olga Ivanovna, whose daughter Marina, once active and sociable, began to distance herself and often refused meetings. Olga Ivanovna could not understand the reason for a long time, tried to establish contact by offering meetings and walks together, but Marina constantly found excuses. This caused Olga Ivanovna to feel hurt and unnecessary, but instead of insisting, she decided to change her approach and write a letter to her daughter. In the letter, she told how proud she was of her daughter's achievements, but understood that everyone has periods when personal space is needed. The letter was written without reproaches, with sincere care and warmth, which touched Marina and made her come to her mother for the first time in a long while. Marina explained that she had difficult times and was grateful for her mother's understanding and support, who did not insist and gave her freedom. Sometimes, to improve relationships with children, you need to be patient and not pressure them, even if it is especially difficult and causes doubts in parents. If you have encountered similar situations and managed to find a way to connect with your children, please write about it. Your experience can help other parents. Often parents become so absorbed in caring for their children that they forget about their own interests and hobbies, which can worsen family relationships. Elena Sergeyevna's story illustrates the importance of self-care. After retiring, she decided to return to gardening, which made her children happy. Her son and daughter visited Elena Sergeyevna rarely, and she felt lonely. But gardening distracted her from sad thoughts and attracted the children's attention. Hobbies and self-care can become a bridge through which children return to their parents, restoring family ties and bringing the joy of communication. And now a question for you, dear viewers. Do you have a hobby that helps strengthen your bond with your children, or are you planning to start something new? Share your stories in the comments. Your experience can inspire others and help find new forms of communication within the family. Another interesting story happened with Pavel, which also shows how important it is to find common ground with children and take care of yourself. After retiring, Pavel Sergeyevich noticed that his son began to treat him more formally and coldly. At first, he thought it was a change in his son's character. Pavel Sergeyevich tried to find out what had happened, but conversations didn't help. Then he decided to invite his son fishing, like in the past when he was a teenager. He said he just wanted to spend time together without talking about problems. At first, the son reacted with distrust and doubt. In nature, the son began sharing his feelings with his father. He spoke about his responsibility for the family and his unwillingness to show weakness. Fishing helped them restore their connection. Now they meet regularly and spend time together, strengthening their relationship. This story shows that sometimes, to understand your children, you need to return to the activities that once brought you closer. Finding your way to restore relationships is very important. Don't hesitate to share your stories and ways to connect with loved ones. Your experience can be helpful to other viewers, helping them find strength and ways to communicate with their loved ones. Besides maintaining contact with children, it's important to take care of your emotional state and not let negative thoughts take over. Valentina Nikolaevna's story inspires many. After many years of caring for her family, she learned to take care of herself as well. Valentina Nikolaevna said she always put others' interests above her own, forgetting that she also needed care and attention. When her children grew up and started their own families, she felt lonely. Instead of resentment, she decided to find new friends and take up dancing. She participated in dance competitions and became happier than ever. After a year, the children noticed her changes and invited her to family gatherings. The children asked her for advice on how to stay active and happy. She realized that her happiness was important for their relationships and mutual understanding. And what do you think, dear viewers? What is more important, living for the children or taking care of yourself to stay strong and happy? Share your experiences and opinions in the comments. This can inspire others to build new relationships and understanding with their children. We often face moments when expectations do not match reality. This causes hurt and disappointment, but it is important to accept changes. How ready are we to accept changes in our children's lives? Ivan Fedorovich stopped demanding visits and began sending his son messages wishing him good luck. He talked about affairs in the village to maintain the connection between them. Over time, his son started calling more often and asking how his father was doing. Then he invited him over to introduce him to his new family. Ivan Fedorovich realized that love is not control, but the ability to maintain a connection without crossing boundaries. Sometimes you need to let children find their own rhythm. You should not demand more from children than they can give at the moment to preserve harmony in the relationship. Another story happened with Irina Pavlovna, who supported her daughter for many years and helped her in everything. When her daughter moved to another city, Irina Pavlovna felt unnecessary. She remembered how her mother said that every generation must learn to let go. She saw how her mother's life had changed. She was surprised at how actively Irina Pavlovna spent her time and how many new friends she had made. This inspired her, and she suggested to her mother to organize regular video meetings to stay in touch, despite the distance and busy schedules. Thus, Irina Pavlovna realized, by letting go of expectations and finding joy in the present, she opens up new opportunities for communication with her daughter. It's worth considering. What if she had continued to wait for her daughter to come back on her own? Perhaps they would have lost contact, or their relationship would have become more strained. Everyone faces such choices, and it's important to understand. Family relationships in mature age require patience and wisdom. An interesting example is Galina Stepanovna, who spent her whole life caring for her children and was used to being their support, but felt emptiness after they left. She wondered how to live happily and actively at any age. These words deeply touched her and inspired her to start making changes. Galina Stepanovna began keeping a diary, recording her emotions and small achievements every day, whether it was a walk or a new cooking recipe. She started taking photos of her activities to capture growth and joy in life, and began communicating with friends more often. They started calling and asking about their mother's successes. They realized that their mother was not someone to be pitied, but an example of strength and activity. In the end, the daughter suggested creating a joint blog about the lives of elderly people to inspire others to find joy in new hobbies and opportunities. She wondered, isn't this the true role of a parent? To show how to be happy at any age, no matter what. Sometimes, to improve relationships with children, you need to change your own approach to life and show that life can be full and joyful. If children see that their parents live a full life and enjoy every day, they themselves will want to be closer and maintain a connection. But should we always expect children to support us and spend time with us? Sometimes it is important to accept a new role, to inspire by example. There comes a time in life when parents need to learn to balance supporting their children and taking care of themselves to maintain inner harmony. When all energy goes only to helping others, the question arises, will there be room for one's own happiness and inner peace? This topic can touch each of us. How to maintain happiness if all efforts are directed only towards the well-being of loved ones? Nina Viktorovna's story clearly shows how important it is to preserve oneself and find joy in life despite circumstances. Nina Viktorovna was always there for the Goya children, helping them at any time. When her daughter became a young mother, she asked her to look after the grandchildren for a few months. At first, Nina Viktorovna agreed, thinking it was temporary help. But over time, her help began to be taken for granted, and she almost stopped taking care of herself. At some point, she realized that she had no time left for her own hobbies. Her own self gradually disappeared, and she became just an assistant. Then, Nina Viktorovna decided to have a talk with her daughter. She explained that she also needed time for herself and wanted to spend a few days a week on her own affairs. At first, the daughter was unhappy, but over time she understood that her mother had the right to rest in personal space. This helped preserve their relationship. Viktorovna returned to her hobby, ceramics. She started attending courses for retirees and made new friends, which added joy to her life. This story reminds us of the importance of personal boundaries. To maintain relationships in harmony, one must be able to say no without being selfish. It is a way to preserve inner balance and joy in life. Helping others, it is important not to lose strength and to take care of oneself. It is important to find true support. But what do you think? Should one always sacrifice their interests for the sake of their children? Or is it better to maintain balance for a full-fledged personality? Is it important to remain a person whom children could look up to? Answer this question for yourself and think about how relationships would change if you start acting differently. Another example for reflection is the story of Vladimir Petrovich, a retiree who was always the center of the family, organizing celebrations and gathering relatives. Over time, Vladimir Petrovich noticed that his children and grandchildren were coming less and less often. This saddened him, but he did not give up. One day, he decided to organize a big family celebration, spending a lot of time on dishes and decorating the house to please everyone. At the last moment, the children canceled their visit, citing busyness. Vladimir Petrovich was upset but decided not to take offense. He changed his perspective on the situation, gathered neighbors and friends, and held a celebration for them in the yard. These people became a true support and a new family for him. Sometimes it's important to find joy nearby and create new opportunities for communication. Upon learning about the celebration from the neighbors, the children realized they had missed the chance to spend time with their father. They understood that they were paying too little attention to their father and began to think about how to restore their relationship. They started visiting him more often to maintain the connection that was once very important to them. This reminds us that joy attracts those who want to be close. The question arises, where do we ourselves seek joy and support when it is lacking from loved ones? By opening new opportunities, we can find friends and strength. By creating a new circle of communication, we gain strength and inspiration. Children should not always be the only source of happiness in our lives. The wider our social circle and the more interests we have, the richer our life becomes. It not only brings joy, but also inspires those around us. Perhaps children, seeing our activity and happiness, will want to spend more time with us to share moments of joy. When relationships with children are difficult, it is worth remembering that there are many people to whom we can give love and warmth. Family is not only about blood ties, but also those we choose in our circle. Openness to new acquaintances and interests helps fill the voids that arise in relationships with children. Maria Vasilievna, for example, after many years of waiting, found new joy and support in new meetings and interests. The woman decided to fulfill her long-standing dream and enrolled in foreign language courses. In the group, she found like-minded people and began socializing not only during classes. Over time, her children became interested in her successes, offered help, and shared advice. This revived their communication, making it more sincere and engaging. Think about which dreams and goals we postpone, hoping for something external. Perhaps it is time to bring them to life and show children that life does not stop. At any age, one can find something new and exciting. Life is full of changes, and relationships with children require patience, flexibility, and wisdom. To maintain closeness with children, sometimes you need to let go of expectations and accept them as they are. Strength lies in showing love and understanding. When we learn to find joy in the little things, we show children that age is not a barrier to an active and fulfilling life. Your example can inspire them. If you see yourself in these stories or are going through something similar, remember, you always have a choice. Life is open to new beginnings at any age. You can maintain your independence, find new hobbies, and create a circle of people around you with whom it will be warm and joyful. We invite you to share your thoughts and stories in the comments. Your experience can become an inspiration and support for other viewers, because when we share our wisdom, we become stronger and closer to each other. Subscribe to our channel and like this video if you found it helpful. Stay with us, and together we will explore new horizons, supporting each other on the path to happiness and harmony.